well-known activist Leo Saldanha joining us from Bangalore tonight. My first question is to K. Santhanam, one of India's top nuclear scientists. Mr. Santhanam, when Indian activists, go and protest and speak out against Kudankulam, then people like you come and say, this is all anti-national. You don't know what's good for the country. This is all make-believe. It's hype. Some people, not you, even say there's a foreign hand. But you can't say that about the Sri Lankans, can you? It only validates that there is reason for serious concern that cannot be brushed aside.
So I completely disagree with what you said. There is no serious disagreement between India and Sri Lanka with respect to building our nuclear power reactors out there in the deep south of India. All these reactors conform to international safety requirements. They are built to safety standards of the highest regard. So there's no
Then why is the Sri Lankan minister saying all that he's saying today? I mean, is that all make-believe? You heard him say that.
I think he's entitled to make a political statement, which in my scientific opinion is absolutely absurd.
So even that statement is politically motivated. Anyone who says anything against nuclear plants is politically motivated.
No. What is scientifically correct will stay correct regardless.
Why can't there be a second point of view?
Sri Lankan politicians.
Why can't there be a second point of view? Mr. Santhanam?
What kind of a second point of view? What kind of second point of view when the reactors have been reviewed from the safety standpoints all over the world?
But they're not buying that, like Leo Saldanha tonight.
Mr. Santhanam.
That is a good question. You have to ask this of the Sri Lankan people and the parliamentarians who suddenly raise
what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting?
To ask them.
I'm asking you, what are you suggesting? What do you think? What are you? I also like to welcome into the debate. I'd also like to welcome into the debate Mr. Gopalakrishnan, top nuclear expert, former nuclear regulator. But I'm getting a rebut now from Leo Saldanha. Leo Saldanha, same argument tonight, that this opposition from the Lankans is also political.
My sense of... that is what I think Mr. Santhanam wants us to believe, but I don't think they are trying to make a political statement here. If I read it right, the statement from the Power Minister of Sri Lanka was that they are going to take a formal petition to the IAEA in Vienna, and the statement essentially says that India has not taken Sri Lanka into confidence in terms of the risk assessment, especially in the event of a disaster. Now, disaster management is probably one of the most critical aspects of a nuclear power plant, and this requires confidence building. It is well established and beyond anyone's doubt that India has failed to build the confidence of communities in and around Kudankulam, whatever may be the accusations from the Prime Minister all the way down against NGOs, communities and so on. But the fact remains that after having signed an agreement way back in 1992 or 1988, and the plant commencing operations, plant being built from 1997, the fact that now when it is ready for commissioning that people do not get convinced within India, and a neighboring country now raising a formal petition with the IAEA is not a matter to be brushed aside as simple, hogwash. I think it is a gross failure on India's foreign policy
and at one concerned. Level. Why should it not raise our concerns?
Nuclear establishment.
Why should it not raise our concerns, Mr. Santhanam?
I would say
this. The attempt was made to bury this debate, to sort it out at a local political level, to get some nuclear experts to go and give it the green signal, get the political class to say okay, and then maybe get the fear factor into all anti-nuclear activists, and then hopefully move on with the project. How are you going to handle the Lankans, Mr. Santhanam? How is the pro-nuclear plant group going to handle the serious concerns of the Sri Lankans?
I think we have to engage in a little bit of improved diplomacy with respect to our relations with our immediate neighbors. This is called for and I think has to be stressed.
Is it about diplomacy?
Number two,
diplomacy?
Through international pressure, through international reactions, the fact that there is no hazard to the Sri Lankan citizens at all has to be pushed in quietly, possibly through media, possibly through other channels like yours.
I'm not sure if they're going to buy that. Mr. Gopalakrishnan, You heard that argument of Mr. Santhanam, your friend out there. Now he says just make them understand. They have some misgivings. They are misplaced. Unfortunately, make them understand. Move on.
Well, you can have the IAEA come and do an inquiry.
Yeah, Mr. Gopalakrishnan responding to you, sir. Yeah.
Yes, let me summarize what has happened. Mr. Santhanam's argument has really no basis. The issue of Kudankulam was raised directly with me at an open International Atomic Energy Agency meeting in 1994, that is 18 years ago. And the occasion was the formulation of the draft Nuclear Safety Convention. There was a 15-nation committee which was finalizing the draft of the International Nuclear Safety Convention, and I was the chairman of that committee. And it was an open meeting where all the IAEA countries were represented at that meeting. And the moment we started the meeting, the Sri Lankan delegates from the floor stood up and directly told me that, look, India is building these huge reactors at the tip of South India, and we are very concerned about the safety, how it will affect our people.
When was this?
This is 18 years ago, 1994 June, at a diplomatic conference, open conference at the IAEA, which I happened to be chairing.
Then why have they woken up now again?
He raised it, and no, let me tell you. And following that, there were also European countries which raised issues about adjoining states which have nuclear power plants, which was a similar situation. And their request was that the international convention must reflect on these situations and appropriately put in the clauses. And accordingly, the draft which was finalized 3 days thereafter has section 16.2 and 16.3 very clearly asking that a country which is a member of the international...
Why did they speak out now?
Endorse the convention.
Why are they speaking out now?
No, and it was raised subsequently also, and the delay was because it was being built from 2002 onwards.
18
First of all,
years?
1994 is when they mentioned this. And yes, even 1 year ago it was raised.
Sir, but Kudankulam has been operating since Kudankulam Part 1 operating since 1983. No. Kudankulam Part 2 went critical in 1987, sorry, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's Kalpakam.
Kalpakam, sorry, Kalpakam Kalpakam went critical in 1987. That is also 80 kilometers south of Chennai. Why did they not object?
Kalpakam is not the issue.
No, why didn't they object Kalpakam?
Kalpakam is not the issue. Kalpakam is it is about 300, at least a minimum 350 kilometers away. The Sri Lankans were complaining about the Kudankulam reactors which are being built, because the Kudankulam reactors are 1,000 megawatt reactors. 2 of them were planned, which is about 4 times the Kalpakam reactors power level. And there were 2 of these coming up, and it was just barely 150 to 200 kilometers.
So you back the Lankans on this?
So
you back the Lankans? Mr. Gopalakrishnan, on this issue, you back the Lankan position?
The Russians there, and also the reason that we have not answered or we are not responding is even today, we do not have the answers. Because frankly, the impact of a serious accident has not been studied by these people analytically. There are techniques today where all the regulatory agencies in the world are doing it.
Mr. Santhanam says it's not because we don't have the answers, but because nobody asked. That's what Mr. Santhanam says.
I do have the answers.
No, we don't have the answers. Mr. Santhanam is totally wrong.
But it
requires a probabilistic safety analysis
Mr. Santhanam is responding to you tonight, sir. Yes, Mr. Santhanam.
No. Mr. Santhanam, this is not...
Let Mr. Santhanam respond to you, sir.
It is not correct, because
Yes, Mr. Santhanam. Do we have the answers to give our own people, leave alone the Lankans? Do we have the answers, or are we just trying to, use force to shut down all protests?
No, we don't have to use force. Our reactors conform to international safety standards, including our own national standards. They are built to absolutely engineered precision. So the kind of argument that is spun out of nowhere, like Fukushima, is misleading, absolutely misleading.
No, this is
One sec.
This
Yes,
is
yes,
brinkmanship
Mr.
on the part of the
Gopalakrishnan.
Indian government.
One sec, Mr. Gopalakrishnan. I want to understand tonight on the news hour. We have two
Mr.
eminent
Goswami,
minds.
I would like to.
We have two eminent minds. How can I have two completely different perspectives from two eminent nuclear scientists, Mr. Santanam and Mr. Gopalakrishnan? I want
Well,
this.
with all due respect,
Mr. Gopalakrishnan, yes.
with all due respect, give me 2 minutes. These things are not hand-waving arguments and answers which have to be given. I'm asking Mr. Santanam, does he know that we do not have the capability yet of doing a probabilistic risk analysis of level 3, which is the only one which will really tell if there is a major accident in any one of the reactors, given the wind conditions and the atmospheric conditions, in which direction that activity will move, which area of neighboring countries it will affect. These are the questions involved. And just our assuring and reassuring people may be all right with the Kudankulam protesters, because the poor guys are under threat of being put in jail. But this will not work with the Sri Lankans. Sri Lankans can as well take the data, give it to an international consulting agency, which will do these studies and show up what the results are, which we are not able to do it. And we don't want to do it because more than half the year, the wind is blowing in the direction of inland India, and it will also show up that many of India's segments of population will also be getting the activity.
One second. Are you saying tonight, in the course of putting a counter question to Mr. Santanam, which I want Mr. Santanam to answer because this is really interesting. You are one top nuclear scientist throwing what is, I consider on the news hour tonight, a direct challenge to another. And Mr. Gopalakrishnan is making the point to you tonight that we are underplaying it. We are deliberate. We A, are not in the position to do this test. B, we don't want to do this test because it will reveal just the kind of threat we are exposing our own people to, not the Sri Lankans. Your response, Mr. Santanam, to Dr. Gopalakrishnan's rebut.